Well, it's Sunday night. It's 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. The kids are tucked in bed, ready to go. Kyle Castles, it is time for Dad's Watching Sports. How are you, my friend?
Oh, they already knew what time it was.
That's right.
They knew. Man, I'm doing good. I got my water in my Saints cup. I'm wearing my Saints shirt. We beat those Niners tonight.
Yeah, we will. We'll talk all about your Saints here shortly, as I know you've got a lot to get to since you were out last week, and we'll get to that here in just a few minutes as well. But this is episode 41, Sunday, November 15th, 2020. Michael Draper and Kyle Castles, as always, the Dads Watching Sports. We hope you're checking us out live on the Facebook page, whether it's our Facebook page, the All Access Sports Facebook page, or our YouTube channel. We hope you're checking us out there. If you're not and you're just downloading our show each and every week, we thank you for that. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. It's very easy. Just hit one little button, and the next thing you know, every week, boom, the show's right there. So check that out. It's right there. It is right there. And yeah, subscribe. Give us a review. Give us a rating. Right now we got all 5 stars, which is nice. But, throw us a 4-star if you want to. Give us some comments, whatever you want to do. We would love to hear from you. And thanks for checking us out each and every week. We will get to some comments if we get those throughout the show. But we definitely want to. We got a lot to talk about, Kyle. And, as I mentioned last week, you were not here. Special thanks and big shout out to Brandon Combs again from Triple Shot Sports. Brandon joined me for the show, and I'm glad because I did not want to sit here and talk by myself for an hour because that would have been probably the worst thing that's ever come across the radio station or the podcast or however you're checking us out. So big shout out to Brandon. Thanks for doing that. And we had some great conversation. But Kyle, the reason you missed is you and your lovely bride and your son, Jack, were out in the City of Angels. And as I said on the podcast last week, it wasn't completely to celebrate the World Series. As soon as I mentioned that you guys were in LA, I thought everybody was going to be thinking, okay, Lauren flew everybody out there to go celebrate the World Series. But tell us a little bit about how you guys kind of got into that and just kind of share how it went and everything involved.
Yeah. So we flew out. So my son, Jack, he's got severe tree nut allergies. He goes into anaphylactic shock or reaction. I don't know exactly what the difference is, but when he eats tree nuts, so that's every nut except for a peanut, and that includes coconut.
Yep.
So that makes it hard. We read labels constantly. We call restaurants constantly, just to make sure that there are no tree nuts. I know people that, I say I know people. I know of people that have emailed companies and asked them about the production process.
Sure.
Because with tree nuts, a lot of kids are so allergic that just cross contamination in the production facility, even if there's no tree nuts in the food, that's enough to cause a reaction. But Lauren, so we found, it's been almost a year since he had his first reaction, and Lauren has spent a good while looking for, she doesn't like the answer of, well, this is just kind of what he's going to have to deal with for the rest of his life.
Yeah. I can expect, I understand that. You're a child, you're not going to accept, them having to deal with something that's inconvenient for them, or in this case, a life-threatening, situation.
Right. And so she's been looking for something. She was looking for something that would give him what they call food independence. And she found that in a place called the Southern California Food Allergy Institute. They have a special regiment that they put kids on that is tailored directly to that kid. It's not like this overarching, like, well, this is our program and we're just going to fit the kid into it. They build a program specifically for the kid. And so we went out there for what they call onboarding. It was our first appointment there. And the trip was, up and down, I'd say. So we get there, we fly in, flew in on Delta and went and got a rental car, which took a little bit longer than it should have considered.
Did your flight do this?
No, actually, it was a pretty solid flight, pretty smooth flight. You wouldn't know that. Lauren doesn't like to fly.
Neither do I.
So she if any little bump, and she was like squeezing I'm pretty sure she broke my hand about 3 different times. And so, but I thought it was a pretty smooth flight. We land. We got to get on the plane before everybody else. We were the first one on the plane going out and on the way back. And she took Clorox wipes and she wiped down our whole row, just to make sure there, if in case there was somebody there that maybe had ate cashews or something. Sure. Before we got on the plane, we made sure that all that was cleaned up. So we get on. Jack loves it. He told his mama probably 2 weeks ago that he needed to make sure he told the pilot where to go because the pilot wouldn't know if he didn't. So
that's right.
We told we told the lady at the desk, and she was like, well, "Just tell the captain." And so he got to go up into the cockpit when we got on, and they put the little captain's hat on him. He told him we're going to California.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it was great. But they were super nice. They took care of us. We get on there. We get seated. The flight is good. Jack's a trooper. They got little screens in the seat. And Disney movies, and he was zoned out the whole time. It was wonderful. Yeah. We land. We go get our rental car. We stand in line for an hour and a half almost to get the rental car. It was awful.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Tell them we need a 5-point child seat, 5-point harness child seat for Jack. They gave us a little plastic booster seat, and they were like, "That'll be good enough."
Jeez, thanks.
Yeah. So we're gonna just ride around LA traffic down all the freeways with this thing, and we did until I'll get to that. And so we get out of the airport finally in the rental car and all that, and we go to the first place you have to go to when you go to LA, and that is In-N-Out, because your boy needed a double.
There you go.
And sure enough, I got me a double and some fries, and Mama got her a cheeseburger and some fries, and Jack got a grilled cheese because he does not like hamburgers, which is not true, we figured out. But a grilled cheese and some fries, and he loved it. That's all he talked about the rest of the trip, is how he wanted to go back to In-N-Out, and we're going to go back to In-N-Out before we get back on the plane.
You got to treat that kid to some Whataburger, man. Forget In-N-Out.
Whataburger
is so much better.
Have you ever had In-N-Out?
I have. We had In-N-Out in Texas.
Okay, that's not real In-N-Out. Real In-N-Out is in California.
No, Whataburger is so much better. I know if TJ's watching, TJ, go ahead and comment now, because Whataburger is so much better. It's coming to Nashville.
You have no clue what you're talking about. Anyways. So we go to In-N-Out. I love it. Mama loves it. He loves it. We leave there. We go see one of Lauren's best friend from law school, her roommate for 2 years, and hung out at her house for a little while before we could get into our hotel. No, we went to the hotel first and then went over there. Then we left there and went out to so we fly into LA, then we drive to Long Beach, Costa Mesa, which is 45-ish minutes. And then we to go see her friend, and our hotel was in Long Beach because that's where the Institute is. But we're going to eat dinner with some other friends that we went to church with in Moore Park, which was about an hour drive on the other side of LA. So we were on the southeast end of LA, and we had to go to the northwest corner of LA to go to Moore Park, which it took about an hour to get there, which is moving, because usually that would be a 3 to 3.5 hour, maybe 4 hour drive to go that far. But with California, shut down due to COVID, there was only one time the whole trip where we came to a stop on one of the freeways. It was
nice.
It was easy driving in LA.
Heck yeah.
But we went out to eat at a spot called Wood Ranch, which is a barbecue spot out there, because all I wanted was a double from In-N-Out and some tri-tip. And so tri-tip is actually a beef loin.
Okay.
That is, you got to cut a certain way to make it edible, because if you cut it the wrong way, it gets too fatty and you end up having something that you can't chew. And they smoked it, and they put some. Just understand, it's a beautifully cooked, tender piece of beef that's been smoked. It was wonderful. So went out to eat with them, drove back to the hotel. We were up for almost 20 hours.
Nice.
Because we flew out at we got up at 4 to leave by 5 for a 7:30 flight out of Nashville, which is 5:30. So we got up at 2:00 California time and didn't go to sleep didn't get back to the hotel until about 10. And so we were beat.
Yeah. I would imagine your 4-year-old is too.
Oh yeah, but you know what? He was a trooper. He was a trooper the whole time. We woke up Monday morning and we drove from Long Beach in our hotel out to Malibu to see Pepperdine, which is where Lauren, where Lauren went to law school. And so that was nice. We went and saw one of Lauren's friends who actually had an old 5-point harness seat that he just said y'all can have, and when you get done coming out here, just trash it.
Nice.
That he didn't want it anymore, so that was really nice of him. There is so when it comes to food allergies, there is a group called Red Sneakers for Oakley, and so Mama and Jack wore their red sneakers this day. And so Oakley was this preteen boy, 12, 13 maybe, who died because he ate his allergy and went into his reaction. And so like hashtag Red Sneakers for Oakley, redsneakers.com. But they wore their red sneakers to the appointment, and it was rough. After about a 30-minute question session where they asked us, what does he eat? How often does he eat? And I mean, it was everything. They did a scratch test. And so that's where he had to take off his shirt, and they had these, what they called panels, that had about 10 needles each, and they had 3 of them. And what they essentially do is they stab him in the back with these 3 panels. And all the needles have,
man, poor guy.
Yeah, they have protein from some tree nut. And so they stabbed him, and they just wanted to see like which spot is going to bubble up or swell or whatever, because they'll know that that's what he's allergic to based on that test. It gave back weird results because he tested positive for things he didn't test positive for on his first scratch test with his allergist here. Mm-hmm. And things that he did test positive here, he didn't test positive there. So we did a scratch test, but then we had to go across the street because they have there's 2 different buildings that have their offices, and had to do a blood test. And that was the worst part of it.
So what's that like for you guys?
Yeah.
I mean, we all have seen our child in pain in some form or fashion, but to know you can't do anything and that this is good for him, but that it's so excruciating. What was that like? It's
awful. I mean, all you want to do is you want to take away the pain, take away the hurt, take away the fear that he's feeling, and you can't. You know that all of these things have to happen. And so me and Lauren had talked to him through the whole trip. Like, look, they're going to ask us to do things we don't want to do, but we have to do them because we want to get better. We want to get rid of these allergies, which 99% of the kids that go through this program leave with food independence.
Awesome.
It was, like if you come in, and I know this because I've read some stuff, if you come in with a peanut allergy, you don't graduate from the program until you can sit there and eat 75 peanuts in 10 minutes. The other more common program, they can get you to eat 2 or 3 peanuts without a reaction. And then they tell you, hey, avoid peanuts, but in case you have them from cross contact, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
This program says, no, you're going to be able to eat tree nuts. You're going to be able to eat whatever you want, whenever you feel like it. As long as you do it their way.
Yeah.
And so this is a big deal.
Sure.
So we do the scratch test. He hates it, but I've got Toy Story pulled up on my phone, and he's watching it and sitting in Mama's lap, and they do it. And we calm him down pretty quick. Wait 15 minutes. They come in, they get the results, and then they say, okay, now it's time for you to go across the street. And the blood test was terrible, but he was great. He walked in. There were 2 chairs. One was a chair where the parent can hold the child, and the other one was this big fire truck, and when you could sit in the fire truck, and he climbed right up on the fire truck he didn't need anybody holding him. He gets up there, he puts his arms out, and the guy puts the needle in, and then there's no blood. The guy missed. And so Jack's screaming, right? Screaming. But, like, he was so brave and so strong and, like, gave the guy's arm knowing what was coming. But he knew that he could do it, and the guy missed.
You're talking about wanting to punch somebody.
Jack is hysterical, screaming, crying, and we got to do it again, right? So we pick him up. Mama holds him. They bring in 2 other people to hold his arm still while they prick him again, and this time they get it. And like blood-curdling screams, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we finally get him done. He calms down a lot when they say, hey, you see that treasure chest over there? You can go get a prize. And he walks out with 3 different prizes and a couple suckers. Like,
attaboy.
Kid wrecks up, right?
You missed, buddy. You're paying now.
Exactly. I didn't even care. I was like, you can take the whole chest, whatever. But so we're walking out, and Jack's still like trying to compose himself. He's better, but still working. And there's probably this 7, 8, 9-year-old kid sitting out the door, and he's next.
Oh.
And he's got like big eyes. I said, don't worry, kid. It's not that bad. He goes, really? Like he couldn't believe I would even say that. So at that point, Mama had to go to the bathroom because she didn't want Jack to see her just completely break down.
Sure, yeah.
And so she went into the bathroom and cried, and I took care of him, and it was rough. But we left there, and we drove out to Santa Monica and went to the pier and ate at Bubba Gump's, and he ate his popcorn shrimp and loved it. And so that was great. Once we got done, but that appointment was tough.
Yeah. So what's next?
So next is in about 10 weeks or so, he'll go back out. I don't know who's going. I know Mama's going. Excuse me, but I don't know if I'm going or if anybody else is going to go with her. When they get back out there, like the blood test will come back and they'll have the results from it. They'll have the scratch test. He'll have one more test to do, and they're going to basically take pods of all these different tree nut proteins and tape them to his back, and he's got to keep them there for 24 hours to see what pops up that way as well. And then we should get a little bit of a breakdown of like, this is what it looks like. This is what the program's going to look like for Jack. And hopefully, that tells us, how long this will go. The average kid's in the program for about 14 months.
Mm-hmm.
And they have, an appointment every, 6 to 8 weeks. So we'll see how that goes, but I'm hoping that it's a short treatment for him and he gets better and we can stop, reading labels and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I do have to tell this story.
Yeah.
One more thing to bring some sports into this.
Of course.
So, my wife's a huge Dodger fan.
Didn't know.
Yeah, you did.
No clue.
But my oldest is Wrigley because I'm a Cubs fan. And so we have Jackson and he has decided that we named him after Jackie Robinson, the Dodger, which we're not going to tell him anything different, right?
Yeah, not a bad guy to be named after.
No, not at all.
He won the Dad's Watching Sports movie bracket. So,
he did.
I mean, come on.
And so Jack thinks he's named after Jackie Robinson, and so he's a Dodger fan. And we were out there; they had just won the World Series, so we had to go to Dodger Stadium, had to go to the pro shop, get there, and spent a ridiculous amount of money buying Dodger crap. But Jack got a Dodger jersey with his name on the back and the number 4 because he's 4 years old. But what he didn't understand, and maybe he will later, is number 4 was Duke Snyder's number, which is now retired. So that was cool. But Lauren, a few weeks before we left, emailed the Dodgers and basically told them the story and the reason we're coming out. And they said, there's no like field or stadium tour or anything like that because COVID. But they sent her a certificate to print out for him. That's the most valuable fan certificate. So
nice.
We got to present that to him while we were there. he was able to go past the barrier for just a little bit, a few feet, to get a little bit more of the field in the picture behind him when we took his picture with it. We kind of sweet talked our way into that, and the guy was like, "I'm not supposed to let you do this, but you can go like right there, like 5 feet beyond the barrier."
Nice.
But it was good. They were great. And, I mean, we went to Dodger Stadium the year they won the World Series, so that was good. Overall, a good trip with a really, really rough appointment.
Yeah, absolutely. TJ chimes in and says, "My heart goes out to Jack and your family. Sounds like a tough kid for sure. Keep up the great work." Thanks for throwing that in, TJ. So really quickly, and then we're going to go to a break, and then we'll come back and really get into some more stuff. But in terms of, hopefully, we do this show to hopefully bring some information or just some fun stuff to other dads and parents out there. So if there's other parents or dads that are listening to this that have the same stuff going on, what would be a recommendation that you guys would give, or what's just some good, I don't even know what for you to
if you got a kid that's got a food allergy, Southern California Food Allergy Institute, when we signed up earlier this year, they said it was a 2-year wait list, but due to COVID and travel restrictions for a lot of people, they've been burning through their list. Get on their wait list, get in. Their numbers say 99% of kids come out of there with food independence. I think it's worth it. Worth all the money you're going to spend. There's if it's food allergies, the Red Sneakers for Oakley is that's got a lot of information. They put a lot of information. They have a Facebook page. I know. I'm pretty sure they have Instagram and Twitter as well. You can follow them there. On Facebook, my wife's got a page. Mike, hopefully you can remember because I don't remember the exact title, but something about Jack's food allergy journey.
Yep, that sounds good.
I think that's what it is. You can search that up, find it, and start following our story there if you would like. We were kind of trying to use whatever we can to make food allergies, specifically tree nut allergies for us, more well known, because you don't get a ton of, you get a lot of, and not that you shouldn't, but you get a lot of like childhood cancer and autism, that kind of stuff. But like food allergies are real, and kids die from it every year, and so we're trying to push that out as much as we can. So Jack's journey to food freedom. Thank you, boss lady. I just saw. I got the feed up.
There you go. The boss keeping you on track there.
Thank you, sweetie.
There we go. All right, we're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about, including COVID is striking back on the sports world. We'll be right back with Dads Watching Sports. Y'all stay with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the Dads Watching Sports podcast has some exciting news for you. You guys have heard us talk about the RTF Sports Network. You can check out our show there, streaming each and every week on their Facebook page. And, of course, our podcast on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 a.m. Eastern. Well, the RTF Network is rebranding to the All Access Sports Network. We're super excited about this and looking forward to providing our listeners all access to the world of sports, and in our case, dad life. Stay tuned for more information about the All Access Sports Network.
We're back here on Dads Watching Sports. Michael Draper, Kyle Castles. We appreciate you joining us each and every week, whether you're streaming us live or whether you are downloading the podcast. Got a comment there from Mrs. Castles to end the show, end that segment, Jack's journey to food freedom. So if you're interested in learning more about the Castles and Jack and what they've got going on, or if you just got a similar situation, check that out. It's on Facebook. We appreciate Lauren getting her husband up to speed on that. Kyle, really quickly, a couple of things that you missed out on last week that I wanted you to touch on, and let's keep this brief. We talked about the election, and again, Brandon and I talked about this last week. This is not a political show. We're not going to get into that, but just the fact of losing gracefully and winning gracefully, and here we are almost 2 weeks later, and we still I guess we have a president, but not really. And what's your 30-second take on what's going on?
Look, this is insane. I teach AP Gov, and so I've talked about it a lot. Here at the end of the day, I think you're going to see Joe Biden, president of the United States.
Yep.
I don't think Trump's going to be able to overturn it through the courts enough votes to take over. Whether you agree or disagree with the whole process, that doesn't really matter. What matters is that we do what we have always done, and we have a peaceful transition of power. I think that's a big deal, and that's something we need to do. And while we're at it, just make sure that we hope for the best, regardless of whoever the president is. Whether you vote Trump, Biden, or a third party, we should all be hoping that Joe Biden makes the correct decisions for our country.
Yep. I think that's what I've tried to preach this whole time is like, hey, Biden towards the end kept saying, I'm not a Democrat president. I'm the president of the United States, or I will be. And let's just hope that continues to be the case, and everybody needs to support him. All right. Last thing that you missed on last week, your Saints, they came marching in and whipped up on the Bucks, and they got another win today. Again, in 30 seconds or less. Are the Saints trending for a playoff push 2020?
Definitely in the playoffs. Right now, I think we might be the best team in the league. So long as Drew isn't hurt for long. He went out. He didn't play in the second half, and Jameis Winston came in today. But look, as of last week, I think most people look at the Saints as the best team in the league. Is that going to hold up throughout the rest of the day or the rest of the year? I don't know. But we'll see. Hopefully, it's in the playoffs making a deep run.
So COVID is striking back against sports. We had the NBA bubble that went off fantastic. We had the NHL bubble that went off fantastic. Both of them crowned a champion. Major League Baseball got the World Series in. They had some stuff to come up here and there, but they got it in. The NFL's done a pretty good job managing it. There hasn't been a whole lot of games canceled or pushed or anything like that. But in terms of college football, that is not the case. We're in SEC country. There were 4 games that were postponed over the weekend for the SEC, and there's games all over the place that are getting postponed.
Wisconsin's now played 2 games.
Wisconsin has played 2 games, and Wisconsin might be one of the best teams in the country. Yeah. And they've played 2 games. They're going to have to find a way to make those up because I think they've got a great shot to make the playoff if we have one. But just really quickly on, do you see the NCAA football season finishing? It looks like the SEC just threw out that they're going to make up games on the 19th of December, which is supposed to be the day of the SEC championship game. We'll kind of see how that all plays out. And do we have a college football playoff? Is every conference, do they have an opportunity to have a representative if they're good enough? Kind of what's your take on college football with COVID just running rampant?
Are we going to get through the season? Yes. Are we going to have a college football playoff? Yes. Are we going to play all of the games that were scheduled? Probably not. Does it matter? No. As long as we get to see that gold trophy now being presented to Nick Saban
wasn't the crystal ball so much better?
The crystal ball was so much better.
Oh, so much better.
Maybe we could do that, like break down best looking trophies, like championship trophies or something.
Yeah.
And you can go back and get some old ones. Like, I think that'd be a fun one. Anyways, there's too much money to not get all this in. You can't leave money on the table.
It's not going to be perfect. I think we've all accepted that fact. Here we were, 3 months ago, and we were like, my God, can we just play football? And it doesn't matter if it goes perfect and they have to cancel game. And now, now we're like, oh, well, come on now. We got to get all these games in. I'm with you. I think they're going to get it in. They're going to find a way to, and honestly, I think that the way they've been able to reschedule things, I still think the best teams are going to get in the playoff. Yeah. I think if you're looking at Bama, Notre Dame, Clemson, Ohio State, possibly throw Wisconsin in there, maybe Florida, Texas A&M, maybe a Pac-12 team, but I doubt it, or a Big 12 team.
I don't see one yet. But
no, but those out of those 7 or 8 teams, you're going to get 4, and they're the 4 best teams, and they're going to end up being able to play it for us.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't know that we're going to see all of our bowl games, but I don't think we need to.
Yeah,
give me the best 4, put them in a bubble for 2 or 3 weeks. Let them play the semifinals, the finals. Let's crown a champion. Let's get out of here, and let's reassess in July 2021.
Well, and they came out, and players get an extra year of eligibility, so nobody's really the players that want to come back and don't have a future in the NFL, at least not immediately. They have the opportunity to come back and didn't lose anything. So I think it's going to be fine. I mean, yeah, we would love to be able to get games in. My family and I we're going to Tuscaloosa this next weekend to see Kentucky probably get beat by 50 at Alabama. I'm really hopeful that game goes through because I want to go and watch the Cats play, even though they're going to get murdered. College basketball could be a different situation. We'll touch on this just very briefly. So with college basketball, much different than college football for a couple of reasons. One, it's indoors. But two, if a player on a team gets COVID on a college basketball team, that entire team sits out for 2 weeks, which is completely different than what they're doing for college football. Mm-hmm. So knowing that, what does college basketball look like? Because we are 10 days away from the start of college basketball season.
Yeah, what we need to do is, I know you don't really like this name. I don't know, maybe you still do. I don't know. Rick Pitino's idea of pushing the start date 2 months. Look, if everything I'm hearing is right about the vaccine, and Trump is saying there are there's going to be millions of whatever you call it, millions of doses available, then why not push it 2 months? Maybe the vaccine comes out. Maybe you can get, at least at the big schools that people really care about, they can get the vaccine in. They can vaccinate their kids and get them out on the court. And not have to worry about COVID as much. And instead of March Madness, have a little May Madness. Like, why not?
Well, yeah. And the thing about college basketball, not only do they have to sit out 2 weeks if one player tests positive, the entire team does, but every conference has different testing measurements. And so some conferences are testing daily. Some conferences, if you test positive, you don't test again. Some if you test negative, or there's just different measurements for all this stuff, which when they play conference only is not that big of a deal, but when you're playing non-conference games before the conference schedule, and then when you start getting into the NCAA tournament, like if a team has a player test positive, or negative,
if you're going to do the tournament, then I think what we got to get out of is that everything's got to look like it has in the past. Like, spread all of this out, right, and have that first weekend where they all play at the different cities, but the teams that are playing in that city, they go in 2 weeks, they quarantine, then they play their 2 games tops, and then they're back out, and then you go to the next weekend and you close down for 2 weeks and quarantine.
Yep.
Let them play their 2 games and they're back out, right? Like, that's what it's going to have to look like. So play fewer games, whatever you got to do it so that you can get in what we all want to see. And that's that, was it 13 beating a 3 or whatever?
Mm-hmm. Well, perfect segue to our next topic of getting in something that you just want to see. And that was the Masters. Normally it's in the springtime. It's an event unlike any other. It's usually right after Final Four weekend. This time it's right in the middle of college football season. They had game day at Augusta National this past Saturday. No fans, which was weird. Having to start so early because of daylight, because we are in daylight savings, which is weird. But we have a Masters champion. Dustin Johnson just annihilated the field, won by 5 strokes, shot 20 under to win the 2020 Masters. Any quick thoughts on DJ's win or just what took place over the past 4 days at Augusta National?
Congratulations, Dustin Johnson. Like, a green jacket's a green jacket. I felt like the course played a little bit easier than it, in 60-degree November versus, it's starting to warm up, 70, 80-degree
April,
yeah. Sorry. But whatever, we got through it. We got one. It didn't look right because we didn't have the flowers blooming. Like, it's usually this colorful background behind it. It's just, it looked like, fall. Everything was starting to die off and a little more gray and that kind of stuff. Tiger with a 10 on the 12th today.
Yeah.
What, 4 straight shots into the water?
Yeah. It reminded me of old Tin Cup.
There you go. For me, it reminded me of a friend of ours, who took a shot and dedicated it to America with the Patriot mask on.
That's right. Justin Smedley for the shout out.
Love me some Justin Smedley. I know he's listening. Smed, we love you. But I'm never going to forget this one's for America and your shot going directly into the water.
That was quite possibly the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. And I tell you what, if I can somehow find that somewhere deep in the archives, we'll play that in an upcoming episode. And just really quickly, this is all inside information here. So people that are listening, I'm on apologize ahead of time. But Kyle, we have a tentative penciled in February 2021 guys lake house trip. I have been told by multiple sources that there could be a Justin Smedley appearance.
Oh, I'm getting chill bumps.
I know.
I need some Justin Smedley.
We'll say the Patriot mask must come along.
Absolutely.
So Kyle, some really cool news that came out this weekend, especially for people like us that have daughters. You think about Kamala Harris being the first woman that is on a major ticket, is now appears going to be the vice president of the United States. However you feel about her political in that party and everything, that's throw it out. I mean, that's really cool to see.
Yeah.
And then the Miami Marlins just this past weekend named Kim Ang, I believe, or Ang, something like that. Their new GM. She was the senior vice president of baseball operations for the past 9 years for the Major League Baseball organization. She's been an assistant GM for the Yankees and the Dodgers, working with those teams that went to the playoffs, even a couple of World Series. So, my girl had the credentials to be able to have this job. But how cool is that? And again, as guys who have daughters, to be able to look our daughter in the eye and literally say there is not a job in this country that if you apply yourself and that's what you want to do, that you really don't have a shot at coming to.
Look, I hope she does well. Obviously her pedigree is there.
Yeah.
And I think she needs to do well. I hate to put this kind of weight on her, but
sure.
If she does not perform, then how long is it before another female gets a position, a similar position? Maybe it's not baseball GM, maybe it's football or basketball or whatever. But, I feel like everybody's watching her. The sports world is watching what she does with the Marlins. I mean, the Marlins went to the playoffs with a team that nobody thought should make the playoffs and beat the Cubs in a best-of-3 series to move to the second round. Like, she is inheriting a team that has already overperformed. Can she put some more pieces to it, right pieces to keep that thing moving forward? She's got the ownership, right?
Mm-hmm.
A-Rod is an owner, right? Is it A-Rod?
Derek Jeter, thank you.
Jeter's an owner. Like he wants to win. He wants to win. So I feel like there's, everything's there for her to succeed. We just need her to succeed because I think it's super cool. I think it's great that, my daughter growing up when women were barefoot pregnant in the kitchen making sandwiches.
Yeah. I agree with that completely. I think both of us and really everybody across the board is that way. And again, it's just for me to be able to, have that conversation with Emma and say, like, seriously, like, you can do whatever you want to do. And there's always going to be pushback, and there's always going to be barriers that have to be broken and glass ceilings that have to be broken. But I mean, you think of, we're talking about Ang in Major League Baseball. You got Becky Hammond, who's assistant for this, San Antonio Spurs, and a lot of people think she could be the first NBA head coach, female NBA head coach. You've seen the analyst for the 49ers. That was a big story in the Super Bowl last year. So women are getting prominent roles in sports, really kind of across the board. And again, you think of one of the biggest positions in the world in the White House now as a potential vice president nominee in Kamala Harris. It's really cool. And having a daughter be my oldest child and my first child, and anybody that has a daughter, you want them to have the best opportunities that they possibly can out there. And it's just really cool to see that they're going to have those opportunities.
Yeah.
All right, let's move forward to something else that's going on this week, and that is the NBA draft. If you remember way back when, I mean, this has probably been 3 or 4 months
real quick, because I just saw somebody pop on. Michael Haskins. I hadn't seen you in a while, buddy, but it's good to see you watching.
There we go. Michael Haskins, we appreciate you. Shoot us a comment. If you have major thoughts on the NBA draft, let us know. We're about to dive deep into it right now.
My man, Michael Haskins, looks like a bearded Maui, just so you know.
Oh, okay. I'm sure if he was on here with us, he'd say, "You're welcome." That's right. So, Kyle, the NBA draft is this week. It's on Wednesday night. And, way back when we had Chris LeBron join us on the show to talk all things NBA, we talked a little bit about the draft and who might go where. I thought this might be a good opportunity for you and I just to do a little draft of ourselves. So we're going to draft the lottery. And before the show, we had a coin flip, and Kyle won that coin flip. Actually, I just felt sorry for him, and I thought I'd give him the first pick.
Hey, look, just pretend I won something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because every time we've debated sports, you never win. So I'm throwing you a bone there. So Kyle, you have the first pick. You are the GM of the Minnesota Timberwolves, and you were on the clock with the first pick in the 2020 NBA draft. Take it away.
Yeah, so first pick, we're going to go. I know that the tide has turned, and when all this first started coming out, it was Anthony Edwards, and the tide's turned to LaMelo. I'm not going to go down that road. There's something about the Ball family I just don't like it. I think it's their dad. Give me Anthony Edwards. Get him up there into Minnesota.
Anthony Edwards off the board at number 1. Okay, number 2, I am the general manager of the Golden State Warriors. They've got Clay coming back. They got Steph coming back. They got Draymond coming back. Just think of 2 years ago, 3 years ago, this is a team that is, yes, they had KD, but a team that is winning 70-plus games. They're right there in the NBA Finals. They won, 2 out of 3. And here they are with the second pick in the draft. They're not going to be the best team in the NBA, but I think with an addition, they can be right back up there in playoff contention. And the addition that I'm giving them is the big man out of Memphis, well, at least for 3 games, James Wiseman. This guy was the consensus number 1 overall pick when he was going into high school, or when he was in high school going into college. He was only able to play 3 games. I'm sure he's been chomping at the bit just to get on the floor, and I can't wait to see him play because he is as skilled as anybody in this draft. So James Wiseman, I got him going number 2. And now the Charlotte Hornets, which used to be the Charlotte Bobcats before they were the Charlotte Hornets again, are now on the clock.
Yeah, I actually had Wiseman. I went ahead and did all 14 going to the Warriors, so I think that's a great pick by you. I didn't pick LaMelo number 1 for the Timberwolves, but the kid's got talent. And he's one of the best 3 players in the draft, and so that leaves him for the Hornets, and then they get to the consolation prize of LaMelo Ball at 3.
And I can't wait to see that kid. Not because I'm a big fan, but because I haven't seen a whole lot of his film from Australia, but I do remember vividly some of his film from AAU and high school ball. And I was not impressed. So I hope the kid does well. Don't get me wrong. But we'll see. All right. Chicago Bulls are on the clock with the number 4 pick, and they are going to stay close to home, and they are going to go with Obi Toppin of the Dayton Flyers is going to the Chicago Bulls at the number 4 pick. Would have been the consensus player of the year in college basketball last year had they been able to give out the award and had the tournament. I think he would have led Dayton to a Final Four. So Obi Toppin, whose brother Jacob Toppin is one of the newest members of the Kentucky Wildcats, is the number 4 pick with the Chicago Bulls. So, Kyle, you have the number 5 pick on the clock for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, I don't like the pick. I actually had Obi go into the Cavs. I like that. It's the Ohio kid staying on. Anyways, it worked out well for the Cavs to do that once before. So I guess I will drop down who I had going for the Bulls and drop him down to the Cavs and Tyrese Halliburton to the Cavs. I think he fits in well there.
Okay. Yep. He's a good player out of Iowa State. Can really do a whole lot. I think he would be a good fit for the Cavs. So I have now got the Atlanta Hawks on the clock, and I am going to a foreign land, actually a land we spoke a lot about this past couple of weeks at the Rolling Hills Community Church. That is the land of Israel, and I'm going to Denny Advija out of Israel with the number 6 pick to the Atlanta Hawks.
Okay. So didn't follow there what I had. I'm trying to think, is he going to fit best with the Pistons? I got the Pistons pick next. You had next week.
Yes.
I think the Pistons could use a forward. So, Pistons, Isaac Okoro.
Out of Auburn.
Yeah.
Nice. I have him on my board. I have him at 10. I was going to pick him going to the Suns, but that's quite all right.
Well, quite frankly, like I could see that, but the Pistons could come back, and I'll just throw out some names. I think the Pistons could get Patrick Williams or Eric Nesmith at that pick as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm on the clock. The number 8 pick of the New York Knicks, and you're gonna laugh at me, Kyle, and you're gonna say Homer here. But
going with it, I have him further down. I got him at 13.
But what some of our NBA fans or fans of the show that aren't really, big NBA fans may not know, there's a new assistant coach for the New York Knicks. There's a new GM for the New York Knicks. Their whole basketball operations kind of has a UK, Kentucky feel to it, as they have Kenny Payne and World Wide West up there now. So I'm going Tyrese Maxey with a little bit of a surprise pick from the University of Kentucky going to the New York Knicks. The guy can play the 1 or the 2. He fills it up. He was really good for Kentucky last year, and Kentucky was really kind of turning things on before the end of the season. So I've got Maxey, number 8, to the Knicks. He's a scorer, and I think he'll look good in that New York Knick white, orange, and blue.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I had him at 13, and the minute you said Homer, I knew where you were going.
Yep.
I actually had Devin Vassell to the Knicks.
Okay.
So that's not bad. But the Wizards, I'm going to stick with what I got there. For the Wizards, what's that, 8, 9? Wherever
9, yeah.
9. Let's go Patrick Williams for the Wizards.
Okay, Patrick Williams out of Florida State going to the Washington Wizards. So I've got the 10th pick, the Phoenix Suns. Like I said, I had Okoro from Auburn at that pick. But now that we've got a few more people, or he's been taken off the board, I'm going with Onyeka Okongwu out of USC, the big man. I'm taking him with the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah. Actually, I had him going to the Spurs with the next pick. So
you're welcome.
I'll actually move who I had for the Suns down. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go Aaron Nesmith out of Vandy to the Spurs. Just front court guy, and I feel like that's where the Spurs could use a little bit of help.
Yeah, Nesmith is he's quite the shooter. I think he will definitely help out there. And it looks like the Spurs are in the market to deal away DeRozan, so it'll be interesting to see. They're going to have to fill some roles there. All right, so I've got the Kings at number 12. Sacramento has not had a whole lot to celebrate over the past, 20 years or so since they were battling the Lakers with Vlade and Chris Webber and company back in the day. So I'm going to go they don't need a guard. They've got some good guards out there. So I'm going to go with a kind of a small forward wing player. I was not overly impressed with this kid going into college, and he did not have a great college year last year, but the potential is there. Out of Washington University or University of Washington, I'm going Jaden McDaniels to the Sacramento Kings.
All right, that's not a terrible pick.
I appreciate that.
So I guess I got the Pelicans now.
You've got the Pelicans at 13, and then I'll finish with the Celtics at 14.
Well, obviously the Pelicans got somebody that can kind of do it all. But he's a big body. He can get down there. I think they need a guard. Let's go Kira Lewis Jr.
out of Alabama.
Alabama, yeah.
The kid, he's a good player. He came into college. He what do you call it when you come in early? Reclassified. Was actually a 17-year-old playing as a freshman. Finished up his sophomore year at Alabama last year. The kid can score. He's really, really fast. So that's a good pick for the Pelicans. And I will finish out the top 14, the lottery, with the Boston Celtics. I had them taking Aaron Nesmith out of Vandy with their pick, but I'm going to go Jalen Smith out of Maryland, the big bruiser up front. I think he can provide them some front court depth there, so I'll take Jalen Smith.
He's the type of front court dude you expect the Celtics to have too.
Yeah, just kind of a little bruiser, get some hard fouls. That kind of thing for sure. All right, Kyle. Before we go to our last break and then come back with some other topics, let's just assume here. We are both what I would consider finely conditioned athletic people.
I used to be.
And because of that, because of our genes being passed on to our children, the likelihood of them being involved in some sort of professional sports team draft, very high. Very high. So let's assume it doesn't have to be NBA, but let's assume it could be any professional sports league, and your child is getting prepared for it's the day before the draft of that league. And we'll say we've talked a lot about Jack. Let's give Wrigley a little love here. We'll say Wrigley is preparing for whatever sports league you like for it to be. Yeah. What is your message to little Wrigley before draft day 2045?
Whatever it is. Yeah. So I actually wrote out what I would say. It's not long. It's direct. It's to the point. And so I'm just going to read this.
Okay.
Said
I feel like we need some like monologue music, like
I know, right?
Some piano or something.
I'll try and say this with some emotion as well.
There we go. This long pauses in between.
You have done enough right to get to this point, but now you must do more, do better. If you want to make it to the top at this level, you have to outwork everyone else that's already at this level. And the thing is, you can do it. I believe in you. I love you. And I'm proud of you.
Oh, that touched me deep. that touched me deep. Well, I do not have anything prepared. I usually with these type of things just try to kind of shoot off the cuff here. So if it was one of my two children, I would say first off, I love you, and I'm so incredibly proud of you for getting to where you are, because you're of the 1% of the 1% that get to where you are. No matter what you do from here on out, it doesn't matter, because you have put yourself in the class that there's just not a lot of people in. There is nothing that you can do going forward that would ever take away my love for you or how proud of you I am. But I know the person you are, and I know that you're going to continue to work hard each and every day to make this the best that it can be. Congratulations on reaching your dream. And I wish you nothing but the best, and go Big Blue, because I know you just finished your career at the University of Kentucky, being an all SEC competitor in whatever sport you choose to play. So,
jeez.
That's it. And I almost started crying thinking about it. All right, Kyle, we are going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk. Unfortunately, man, we lost a lot of people over the past week. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We'll be right back on Dad's Watching Sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the Dad's Watching Sports podcast has some exciting news for you. You guys have heard us talk about the RTF Sports Network. You can check out our show there, streaming each and every week on their Facebook page. And, of course, our podcast on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 a.m. Eastern. Well, the RTF Network is rebranding to the All Access Sports Network. We're super excited about this and looking forward to providing our listeners all access to the world of sports, and in our case, dad life. Stay tuned for more information about the All Access Sports Network.
We're back here on Dad's Watching Sports. He's Kyle Castles. I am Michael Draper, and we are glad that you are here joining us as the listener or watcher of the show. Kyle, as I mentioned coming into that break, last week was a tough week for a lot of reasons, and it was a tough week for really kind of across the board and the world in terms of we lost some good people out there. I think one of the most notable is obviously Alex Trebek, who hosted Jeopardy for such a illustrious career. Had cancer, came out a couple of years ago, maybe a year or so ago. Seemed like things were going really well, and then unfortunately took a turn for the worst, and we lost him. And just an icon when it comes to the game show world. And I mean, we talked about it 2 weeks ago when Sean Connery passed away. The SNL skit of Trebek, was one of that I can only remember, one of the game show hosts, at least recently, that was portrayed in a SNL skit. I'm sure Regis Philbin probably was as well.
Oh yeah, he is, man.
Man, tough to see the loss of Alex Trebek.
Yeah, I mean, it's awful. I don't know where Jeopardy goes from here, because I feel like Jeopardy and Alex Trebek are so synonymous. I actually saw, I forget his name, but people pushing for. Remember the old show Reading Rainbow?
Oh yeah.
That guy, the guy that used to host it, like he could. Apparently, people are pushing for him to be the next host. But, I mean, it's terrible. I did see a picture online, one of the memes online, and it was Sean Connery waiting for Alex Trebek behind the pearly gates. And Connery going, "We meet again, Trebek."
Oh, that is fantastic. I wish I would have seen that. LeVar Burton is the guy you're thinking of from Reading Rainbow, also from Star Trek.
Yeah.
He was the guy with the little visor thing over his face. Well, it definitely brought me to the topic of top 5 game show hosts of all time. There's a lot of great shows. There's been a lot of great hosts, and I think in thinking about this, a lot of this kind of predates us. Honestly, some of the real like awesome game shows and some of the really kind of iconic hosts. But let's go 5 to 1. What are your top 5 game show hosts, and what obviously you'll throw in what show it is that they hosted of all time.
So. A lot of these do predate us, but I am a bit of a game show junkie. I will watch some Game Show Network and watch some old stuff. So I got a couple older-ish ones. At number 5, I got Chuck Woolery, who hosted Love Connection.
Yeah.
That was fantastic. Number 4, I got Gene Rayburn, host of Match Game.
Nice.
He was hilarious. At number 3, I have Alex Trebek. Jeopardy! Number 2, probably the game show host with the best right cross. If you don't believe me, ask Happy Gilmore and Bob Barker. Price is Right. And then at number 1, I mean, it doesn't get any better than Pat Sajak on the Wheel of Fortune.
Nice. Well, we have a few of the same, but I've got a few different ones as well. So my number 5, I'm a big fan of Family Feud. What's the guy that hosts it now?
Steve Harvey.
Steve Harvey does a phenomenal job, and they've had so many hosts over the past decade or so. But Richard Dawson was kind of the original Family Feud guy, so I've got him as my number 5. My number 4, Kyle, is Pat Sajak, because let's be honest, Vanna White carries the show. Everybody tunes in to see Vanna hit the little thing and flip the little letters. Pat sits there. Who knows what Pat's doing back there. Number 3, I've got Regis Philbin with Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I think that was by far it was a short phenomenon, but that was a phenomenon in terms of game show.
And I think your Regis Philbin impersonation is about to be a phenomenon.
I think it is too. We'll have to put that in as a drop at some point in time.
Yeah, we should.
Number 2, I've got Trebek again. I mean, the guy's an icon. And then number 1, man, I mean, I've got to go Bob Barker. Yes, he does have one of the best right hooks. But I mean, that the Price is Right is just so iconic. And people, I don't know if it's just the people dressing up and, people bidding the $1. I mean, he was just awesome. And Drew Carey, just can't even hold a stick to the guy. So that is my top 5. Another person that we unfortunately lost over this past week is something very close to me because I'm a Kentucky fan, but I really wanted to talk about it, and that's John Schlerman. A lot of people are not going to know who John Schlerman is unless you're an SEC fan. It may not even if you're an SEC fan. John Schlerman played for Kentucky in the 90s, was an all-SEC offensive lineman. He's a left guard, was their offensive line coach here more recently, was diagnosed with cancer a couple of years back. And, man, just to hear some of the things that some of the players and coaches said about him, had this diagnosis, never talked about it, never made an excuse about it, showed up every single day to practice, coached offensive line, and his offensive line, for those of you that don't follow Kentucky, the offensive line had always been the weakness of Kentucky. They always, they had a pretty good quarterback. They had Randall Cobb a couple of years back. They've had some skill positions, but they've never been able to have a competitive offensive line. And since he's been at Kentucky over the past 3 or 4 years, really specifically, they've had one of the best offensive lines, not only in the SEC, but really in the country. And they've had guys drafted in the NFL. And a lot of that goes to him. And, again, when he passed away on Friday going into Thursday going into Friday, some of the players from Kentucky just talked about, not only was he was a warrior and he was the toughest guy I've ever met, but he was also like a father to me. And he epitomized what it meant to be an offensive lineman. And I know all about that, Kyle. But it really kind of led me to thinking about the role of a coach in kids' lives. And you and I both have coached. You've coached at the high school and college level. I've coached at the high school level. And we know that the responsibility that comes along with that of just, yes, you're there to help develop a skill, but the impact that you could potentially have on these kids is so far greater than that.
Yeah, I mean, the role of the coach is really to get a player, to reach his or her potential that they couldn't reach on their own, that level that they couldn't reach on their own. And that's not just on the field of play or the court or whatever it is that you're coaching. It's as a human being, right? Especially at the high school level. At the college level, it's a little bit more of a business and like I'm there to win and whatever. But at the high school level, man, like the majority of your kids are not going to go play college football or college basketball or college whatever. The majority of them, like when they finish their season, their senior year, like that's it. They're not going to play intramurals maybe in college, but like they're not going to play anything that means something anymore. And so, especially when I was coaching the high school, like I felt like a big part of my job was to create young men that had certain virtues, had certain characteristics. And I hope I did a decent job. I keep up with a lot of them. And from what I can tell, the majority of them have turned out pretty well. And here's the thing. It's all about teaching those life lessons, that you're going to get knocked down. There's going to be adversity, and your character is not shown when the good things are happening. It's easy to be a team player, and it's easy to show up when you're winning. It gets a whole lot harder to show up and be that team player when things start to go south.
Yep.
And, we got to, that's one of those things that I preached over and over. Like, what are you going to do when it gets hard? What are you going to do when it gets tough? And so as a dad now, and I'm out of coaching, and, I look for these types of things. Kentucky came out in their first offensive play and left the left guard spot open and took a delay of game. And Vandy, very graciously declined that, which is great, but it gives us the ability to talk about hard things, and we all need to look for those opportunities and not let them pass, to have those conversations about this is what it means to be a good sport. This is what it looks like. Listen to the things that the players said about Schlerman. I mean, they talk about him being tough and him being knowledgeable. They also talk about him being the funniest guy, which, you didn't play football in high school. The thing people don't, maybe they do, maybe they don't realize about offensive linemen is we're all a bunch of self-degrading, quite frankly, insecure human beings. And so we all make fun of each other because we all make fun of ourselves. And it sounds like Schlerman fits right in with that. And, he had 3 or 4 offensive lines in the last few years that were up for, I forget the name of the award, but an award that's for like the best offensive line as a unit in the country. Yep. So he was pretty good.
Yeah, without a doubt. TJ chimes in and says, dare I say, coaches can play a dad in a kid's life. There are father figures to some of those kids, and that's absolutely true. Yeah. I saw when I coached high school basketball, our head coach was significantly older. I mean, he was kind of near retirement age, and I was still in graduate school, so I was a younger guy, and I was not far removed from high school, not that far removed, and was able to kind of be kind of an older brother to some of those kids. And we unfortunately had a little bit opposite of what you guys had, at least in some of your stops in terms of football. We had to figure out how it was to win. Like we were always the whipping boys, and we had to say, hey, yes, here's the circumstances you've had in your life, and yes, here's what the record of this team has been over the past couple of years, but we are changing that, and you are changing that, and we have to learn to win.
Yeah.
And that's not easy either. It's definitely not.
I mean, you want to talk about being a young coach. Like, you were a young coach in high school. My first job out of college was coaching a college football offensive line, where I had guys on the team older than me. We had a guy that was a Marine and went down to Afghanistan and came back, and the dude's like 28 playing D3 football. And here I am as a 24-year-old kid, and there's a defensive tackle over there that's 4 years older than me. Yeah. But he's saying yes, sir, to me, and like, whoa, this is like, call me Kyle, dude. You're 4 years older.
Right. I should be calling you sir.
And you're a Marine that went and fought in Afghanistan. Like, you could kick my ass if you wanted
to. Yeah, without a doubt. All right, last kind of honoree or memorial for someone lost this past week. Paul Horning, just one of the most decorated football athletes of all time. I mean, think about it. He's one of the very few people that won the Heisman and NFL MVP, played at Notre Dame, played for the Packers. Just a phenomenal athlete. The Paul Hornung Award in college football is given to the most versatile athlete out there. It's a guy that was able to play multiple positions. We won't go through the full 10 list because we are well over on our time, but maybe just one or two guys currently playing in the NFL that you think would be a good honoree for Paul Hornung is one of the most versatile players in the league.
My Saints are here, and we got two of them. You have to admit, when you talk about versatility, the first name that should come to everybody's mind is Taysom Hill. Quarterback, can play running back, tight end, wide receiver. Yeah, he's playing a little bit of fullback. The dude covers down on special teams, like nothing but versatility out of Taysom Hill. And then we have our gadget player, who's I guess Taysom's a gadget player too, but Alvin Kamara, AK-41. That sucker, he caught the ball like a receiver today and only had 15 yards rushing, but had 2 rushing touchdowns and had a receiving touchdown on top. Like, Kamara is the best offensive player in football outside of quarterbacks this year. So there you go.
There you go. I'll just give you one because I had both those guys on my list too. I've actually had him at number 3. I've got Dalvin Cook for the Minnesota Vikings. He kind of can do it all. The guy catches it out of the backfield. I mean, he's an every down back, but he's very versatile in the fact that he can also catch the ball out of the backfield as well. We are going to skip the alligator picture for this
right.
week. We'll come back to that. I'm sure if anybody's been online, you've seen this picture, but we'll come back to that. Let's get into some quick picks before we get off the show. Indiana at Ohio State. Who would have thought over the summer this would be a battle of top 10 teams?
Yeah.
Indiana really looking good, and they're going to the shoe where Ohio State is looking really good. I'll pick first. I'm going to go Ohio State. I think they run the table until the Big Ten championship game where they get knocked off by Wisconsin. So I'm taking the Buckeyes.
Yeah, I quite honestly, I was praying. I'm still praying, I guess, for a COVID to hit this right, because if it hits it right, like Indiana's going to end up playing more games than Ohio State, and then Indiana gets into that Big Ten title game instead of Ohio State, and that because I'm one of these crazy people who just want to watch the world burn. Like that floats up all of college football playoffs. But if they play it as good as Indiana's been, they're not going to hold up against Ohio State.
Yeah. So usually around this time, we're talking about UCF being the team that's going to break through and knock one of these Power 5 conference teams out of the college football playoff this year. There's several of them. One of them is Cincinnati. Cincinnati goes to UCF. UCF not what they have been over the past couple of years, but any chance the Golden Knights can knock off the Bearcats?
No, I think the next Michigan head coach is right now coaching at Cincinnati, even though he has some Ohio State ties.
Wouldn't that be interesting?
It would be interesting. But if I remember right, Schembechler had some Ohio State ties as well. And so they've done it before. So give me Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'll take Cincinnati too. UCF again, it's not what they have been over the past couple of years. It does look like that kid was it Mackenzie Milton that was such a good quarterback for them. Looks like he's going to be able to come back and maybe play a little bit, which is really good after that just horrific knee injury. We'll finish up our picks with Bedlam. You got Oklahoma State. Going into the season, we thought this could be 2 top 10 teams getting ready to make a push for the playoff. Neither one of them are there. They're both in the top 25, but neither one of them really have a shot at the playoff. You got OU or you got the Mullets of Oklahoma State.
Yeah, this one's hard to pick, but I'm going to go with Oklahoma. I think Lincoln Riley is starting to get things turned around there.
All right, well, I in order to catch you in our pick 'em, which I didn't even put it up because I'm not even nowhere close. I've got to go different, so I'm going to go OK State just because. But I honestly was going to pick OU. But I think either team could do that. Well, Kyle, next week we've got a pretty good show next week. We're actually going to have 2 guests join the show next week, which I'm very excited about. We've got Bill Bender. He is the college football writer for the Sporting News. Is going to come on and talk a little bit of college football, but then also some dad life. It was funny when he and I were going back and forth about dates. He said, well, I've actually got a lot of like youth sports stuff going on with my kids. So I think it'd be really cool to talk to him about that. And then we're also going to be joined by John Rawl. John is the CEO of y'all.com. Also used to run what was called CRM Sports, which I worked there right out of college. We produced different sports radio and podcasts, radio shows and podcasts. So John and Bill are going to join us next week. And then the remainder of the year, we've got a couple more guests coming up the remainder of the year. One that I'm really excited about. Well, two really. So on December 6th, we're doing our holiday song bracket, and we're going to have the Bracketeers. If you don't follow them on Twitter, check them out. They're going to be joining us that Sunday to help us go through that bracket. And then on December 13th, we've got Tennessee Titan, Macho Man Titan Todd that is going to come on. If you have not seen this guy yet, go to either Facebook or Twitter and search Macho Man Todd Titan. And you'll see his videos. It's this guy that he's a Titans fan, and he dresses up in full Macho Man attire, and he does these little promos before each game, and they're pretty awesome. He's got a couple of kids, so he's going to join us. And then Kyle, we're going to take off the rest of the year. We're going to take off the last 2 weekends of the year to recharge the batteries, to spend time with family, and to kind of figure out what's next for dads watching sports. But it should be a good finish to the year.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I got a surgery planned for December 17th, so I'll come back on January 3rd, I think.
Yep.
And I'll tell y'all all about it.
There we go. And I've got to throw this picture up if you're streaming and watching us. So these are my two kids with Santa Claus. We had Santa Claus come to someone's house, and several families got together. You can see my daughter very happy to be around Santa. Hayden, not so much. He was crying the whole time until he got a cookie.
Well, cookies make everything better.
Cookies make everything better indeed. And we hope you have enjoyed Dad's Watching Sports this week, and we've made your week better. Michael Draper, Kyle Castles, we'll see you next week. Y'all take care. This has been episode 41. Dad's Watching Sports. We'll see you later.